Sometimes I get a camera which I know very little about, and even when I start looking in camera books or online, I find out very little about the camera. But it's still useful to use the camera, and I like to give an opinion about it as well. And the camera I have this time is a plastic camera called a Goldline, a Clipper AW, made in Taiwan. And I would have thought it is about 1994, 95. It's interesting in several points of view, from a design point of view. First of all, we'll start with the lens. The lens is a 38mm, so it's a little bit wide angle, but a lot of these type of cameras have a 32 or 34 lens on, so it's interesting that this isn't a complete wide angle. It's a 3.5, so that's not bad at all. It's a fixed focal lens. We have a motor rind and 2 AA batteries. It's self-loading, so we can load very easily here at the back. We do have, it has got some exposure control. It has got a CDS there, so that's a little light sensor, and we have a range of ISOs. So actually that's interesting, that's before ASA became, no, that's after ASA. So yes, I think probably late 90s this camera. ISO we have 1400, and the 200 and 100 is on the same mark, which is interesting. We can open and close the lens shutter and the viewfinder, and that is simply it. It's a, you point, you shoot, it runs on. We have a LED to say when it's operated. We have a optional flash, which seems to be, well, I can hear it firing up here. We have a counter on the top. We also have a little central, if we look through the viewfinder, we have a little central window, and that is about it. It's moderately ergonomic to hold. We've only got the end of control is the button, and that is all I can think to say about this camera. Let's see how I got on when I actually used it, and see if it actually produced anything which was any good or usable even. I took these photographs in Swannish on a bright sunny day, and remember, this is a fixed focus lens, and this is the town hall in Swannish, and it's absolutely fine. I think it's probably fixed on about 3 meters to 10 feet, but if you've got good sunlight, you're going to have a small aperture, so your depth of field is going to be good. As you can see on the town hall, which is a fascinating building. This building was actually built in London, and it was shipped down as ballast and rebuilt in Swannish in about 1880. It's an extraordinary building. It was originally in the city of London, but the camera is showing some detail here, and as you can see, the cherubs around the door are absolutely distinguished. We can distinguish them as shapes. So for a very cheap plastic camera, this is actually performing absolutely fine, but you could argue that with a good aperture it will perform fine. But that's the interesting thing about the design of this camera. The fixed focus lens with a CDS meter means it is quite usable. The viewfinder is fine. It's an extremely light camera to use, plus it runs on very easily. It's a happy snappy camera. One slight problem with it was on the back. I was using a cassette which was black, and the window I couldn't actually make out if I still had a film in it, so I was sort of snapping away a little bit randomly. But here you've got a street in Swannish. Yes, it's a bit of an angle, but you can see the car number plate, you can see the name of the shop opposite just, and you can just make out the writing on the wall here. So again, as regards to sharpness, this camera is actually performing surprisingly well. Swanleys is fascinating for its architecture. It was very much designed around the 1860s, 1870s, and so we have quite a few Gothic type churches, and again, this is absolutely fine. A bit of a converging vertical here, but you know, for a very cheap camera, I think it's quite amazing what we are actually getting here. Again, this is a fascinating structure which originally came from London, and again, the exposure is fine. I've done no adjustments on these photographs at all. There is a little bit of dust, I think, on the film, but for a very cheap camera, which basically I picked up for not a great deal of money, it actually performed moderately well. I think the fadings you can see on this photograph here, where the buildings in the background are not perhaps the sharpest, and you wouldn't, but we can still see the time on the clock, 5 o'clock. So for a cheap pickup camera, I was surprisingly impressed. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again. Bye for now.